Ah, yes, greetings to all of you, and the influx of new people, who I will propagandize into becoming right-wing. You know, I've been thinking about how I should approach this video, because for those of you who don't know, I'm actually a rather mild-mannered sort of gentleman. When I'm not on here, or on somebody else's channel where I have to practice better judgment, because I'm a European, and we're actually capable of impulse control. However, on my own channel, I do thoroughly enjoy being an outspoken asshole, but one of the last videos on this channel was inspired by Az's famous pronoun rant in the wake of footage from the new Dragon Age bollocks being released that is expected to be the death nail of BioWare because it looks like the contents of a pureed pride parade. I say bollocks because I refuse to call that pile of dysgenic fruit salad a game. It is the amalgamated tears of life's attention-seeking failures. Now naturally, seeing as the video had more views than I have subs, I expect to get some new blood to come in here and give me a piece of their mind. And judging by the quality of the feedback, I would caution against such behavior. Trust me, many of you don't have disposable pieces to spare. Nothing out of the ordinary, mind you. Usual responses for the most part, including the often fridge magnet accusation of grifter. That word really needs to be retired. It's become like Nancy Pelosi's soul, an empty pit where money is thrown in. I was under the impression it meant someone who espouses things I don't believe in for money. So to accuse the South African monarchist of being a grifter makes you look retarded. Now the video itself featured what I called the 4 horse monkeys of the apocalypse. Why that phrase? I have no idea, it just sounded funny. YMS, Diesel Patches, Asmongold, and Ackman. What was very bizarre though, the only one that was defended in some regard was Asmongold, and in ways that really didn't make a lot of sense, or frankly any, come to think of it. A few said I took him out of context. Can someone explain to me how that pertains only to him, considering the series of clips I used came from one of Ackman's videos that talks about Az and the pronoun debacle? So if no one else needed context, why did Asmongold? Where fanboy simpery goes wrong, but anyway. Well, the one said he already spoke out against the viral Dragon Age bollocks, and I should watch him before I speak. To which I say, no, I have no intention of watching him. I gain nothing as a person by watching any of his content. What was fascinating to me about this particular response, though, was the amount of people who essentially said, Asmongold is the most malleable of the lot that I featured in the video. Allow me to explain. The video was essentially saying these people are valueless beings with no coherent worldview. Or maybe that's a bit harsh, maybe their opinions are valueless. But they are drones who just follow the power paradigm. Sheep to the algorithm essentially, and I don't expect much more from them. So when you look at what Asmongold said then, as a matter of fact, let's look at what he said.
In the future, gene therapy and genetic modification will have gone so far that not even the most conservative will be able to say that there are 2 genders. If you think that things are weird now, just wait until they actually figure out how DNA works.
Now, as I mentioned in the video before, this perspective doesn't make any sense because the current pronoun debacle is about identification. It is purely political. There's nothing scientific about it whatsoever. He implies here, though, that via hypothesized scientific breakthrough of the future, depictions of this crap in dystopian fictions are justified because currently we have no clue how DNA works, yet in the future we will somehow magically discover there are more than 2 genders, which justifies those dystopian depictions. It's funny how previous dystopian depictions never featured any of this crap, so why now? The implication here being that current politically driven views on gender will somehow in the future become normalized through science. They aren't driven by science now, so why in the hell is science necessarily going to justify them in the future? None of this makes any sense. And if gene editing could make you either male or female, the politics becomes redundant via the science. We already know how DNA works, and we know there's only 2 genders. Hell, even the hippie Skittle Squad knows this, hence why the B in their faction stands for bisexual. This perspective does not require Dragon Age being full of the message to understand. Like I said, seeing as this is driven by politics of the insane, the notion that time and location would somehow prohibit the inclusion of any of this nonsense is a consensus reached only by the stupidest of idiots. Which begs a question I have for some of his defenders. Why do you think he said this in the first place? Really think about that for a moment. Is it because he's a busy content creator and he needs to crank out the volume, speak first, think later? Did they think Az did not look particularly well at that moment and they were hedging their bets on whether or not this is going to age well with the audience? Is he perhaps not terribly bright, kinda normie, contractual restraints? Who knows? Now the reason I ask why do you think he would say this in the first place is for you all to reflect on the notion that Asmongold, or frankly anyone, is malleable. For what purpose? And who is doing the molding? If someone's income rests on them trying to appease as many people as possible, you would be a fool to expect all of their opinions to be their own, especially when there's a sharp and sudden deviation away from an opinion that caused a bad reaction. Their so-called malleability, then, is merely the capacity to be receptive to a disgruntled audience, all in the name of keeping an equilibrium in wind to ensure maximum profit generation and the smoothest ride. All this means is they conform well because they're susceptible to some form of peer pressure. Is that really a virtue that you people want in a creator? Someone who just regurgitates the opinion of the mob? Do you really even value them at this point? Them just being a mouthpiece for your opinion? Because I got news for you, that means they're fickle with no integrity. They'll just sway with the tides. I see this kind of behavior, and the grifter-esque inquiry starts to fill my mind. How much of your sense and soul have you silenced under the weight of money? Or how empty is your cranium that you're susceptible to swallowing this kind of wank in the first place? Now you're free to say I'm being overly critical and perhaps rather cynical, but hey, welcome to the business of paid opinions and propaganda. The entire democratic system runs on this corrupted bollocks. I'll be honest, I don't look at these people as complete human beings. They're basically mercenary peasants that can be bought off and or puppeteered. This stuff is so obviously a product of indoctrination, I simply can't respect anyone who falls for it, especially when you see the kind of people who do. The most generous interpretation that I can give for these kinds of personalities is they act as a sort of intermediary between the consumer and the bigwigs, the rope used in the tug of war. And I said before, I think of humans as iron filings, being pulled by magnets of power, and you can see these types of people and their opinions as gauging the direction the magnets are pulling them in. And yes, I am fully aware I'm coming across like a massively conceited elitist here. I'm very much okay with my arrogance, it's part of my charm. That's how you know my opinions are sincere and authentic, because they aren't based off the mainstream consensus and I detest most people. The mob is of no concern to me. And guess what? Most of you people like me for that. Spoon is one self-righteous son of a bitch. But at least I know he means that shit. He will tell his whole audience to go to hell if he thinks he's right. Which is true. You should always strive to be that guy, by the way. You may not have as many friends, but the people who come to you and ask your opinion expect you not to pull your punches. And my word, it is far more fun when people come to you for that reason, and not simply to reaffirm their opinions. It's much more liberating, and for all the right reasons. The best way to appear intelligent, don't talk about things you don't know. Very simple, because when you do and you're so horrifyingly short-sighted, you look incredibly stupid. And you also look very disingenuous if you don't course correct. And even then it's a tripwire if the course correction doesn't appear sincere. Like this gimp over here. What the fuck are we doing out here, BioWare? I don't even know what the hell that thing is, but obviously that's the arrow shock from Dragon Age 2 on the right. Hey Ackman, do you remember about a year ago when Az went on the pronoun rant and your stupid self called him a gorilla-shaped man on the verge of crime because Starfield lets you pick pronouns? Oh wait, here it is. And feel free to go to my Twitter account and look this up. It has aged gloriously well, hasn't it? A tweet that will live in infamy. You know what's really odd though? I had to go and dig up this tweet manually via Brave. Twitter's own search mechanism wouldn't pick it up for some reason. Very weird. This was over a year ago. Has there been an ever-increasing march of overt leftist propaganda in games? Yes, and as he himself points out there, it's at the start of the game and never mentioned ever again. So why is it there? And remember the freak out when people tried to mod out the pronouns? Same people who say it's no big deal that it's there become feral monkeys when you wish to remove it from the game. Ken, why do you think that is? And has he in any way recognized the error of his ways? Wait till the end, I'll tell you. I myself thought Az's rant was rather easy to explain. Imagine you live in a place overrun with an infection, and it's in everything and you cannot escape. And when you finally get something new, even that has been infected. There's not so much the concentration of the infection per se, it's that it's yet another thing that has been tainted by this thing that is ruining everything else around you, hence the righteous anger. Very simple to understand that, and most people do, which is why it has aged so well. But if it isn't Destiny attacking the Drinker, it's this twat. Drinker coming in. Is it just me, or are character creation scenes nothing but a stupid narcissistic waste of time? Attached to a video of the horrifyingly disfigured hellscape that is the Dragon Age character creation screen, with Ackman, who can't help himself, chiming in. Would you say the same thing about creating a character in Dungeons & Dragons? These are role-playing games. Creating your own character based on the tools and your own imagination is the entire foundation of the RPG genre. You should be criticizing the game, not the genre. Okay, let's try and pretend we have an IQ above 75 here, shall we? At least for this portion, because we're going to try and apply some nuance. It might be because I'm not reading this like some fastidious wanker, but the fact that he links a character creation screen would indicate to me that he might have an issue with this one in particular. And why so? Well, the phrase is stupid, narcissistic, waste of time. Do tell, can you think of anywhere else this might apply? Why, yes. You see a collection of fug-ugly characters running the gambit of every self-insert we've seen in AAA gaming for roughly the last half a damn decade. Quite clearly, he is attacking the glaringly noticeable infection. It just so happens to be in a character creation screen. Is this prevalent in other games as well? Yes! Heaven's sakes, this is a man who attacks the infection in entertainment in general, let alone a specific gaming genre. Is this really so difficult to grasp? Apparently so. Scrolling through the comments, it seemed that this is one of those rare highbrow moments that go over most people's heads. Personally, I really take issue with this line. Creating your own character based on the tools and your own imagination is the entire foundation of the RPG genre. Yeah, and when the sliders limit you to fug-ugly Starbucks baristas who fuck the gumball machine, the mechanic screams you will only create a character that satisfies the sexless head of HR. Idiot. Actually, I'm being kind of unfair calling him that. I don't necessarily think he's stupid. Just a coward who's full of shit. Cheers for watching, and once again, I apologize for nothing.